Okay, so we are here for October's Tea and Tarot, and I have a little bit of good news. I interviewed the makers of the Pistis Sophia Tarot. So remember in our last month's session, we did the unboxing of that beautiful new Majors Only deck, and we were looking at it. We are like, oh, these different goddesses, and um, now I've interviewed the two makers of the deck about their motivations in creating the deck, their process of creating the deck, and their little bit of information about like why they made the decisions they made of the different goddesses that they chose for the cards. So I think it'll be something you'll enjoy. And I'm going to upload that this week, and I'll send that out to this group so you can see that video. And then we will also have this video from today. So today, in the spirit of Samhain season, or the Festival of the Dead, whatever, by whatever name you might call it, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking in on how to connect with spirits of those who have gone beyond and receive messages from them through our readings. And this, what we're doing here, is not mediumship where we're being kind of the mouthpiece of the deceased person and like talking in their voice or anything like that. It's not quite like the movie Ghost, if you ever saw that. But it is an opportunity for us to bring together the messages from those who have gone beyond, in many cases, quite specific messages and quite specific identities, and deliver those messages to a client or querent or for ourselves. And over the years, since I developed this spread, I developed this spread the same way that I develop all of my spreads, which is that there were questions that I wanted to ask that I couldn't find in traditional spreads. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, well, if I'm receiving a message from someone who's beyond the grave, how will I know if it's really them I'm talking to and not just some random mischievous spirit that wants a little attention? If you've ever done the Ouija board, you know random mischievous spirits that want attention love to come into divinations and try to pretend that they know what's going on. But until they spelled pizza over and over and over, or until they've done something that you're like, okay, yeah, no, you're not my grandmother. That's not my grandmother. You don't always know. So in this spread, what we do is we think about who we might like to communicate with first. Then we pull cards asking for, we'll say a prayer asking for them to come. Then we'll pull cards looking to see the quality of character of the person. What was their relationship to us, or what is their relationship to us? Any messages that we have that they have that we need to know about. And finally, if we have any homework to do, anything that they'd like us to go and do or look at or take care of. And that can be about ourselves, or it can be in regards to their legacy, or it can be in regards to something else. So similarly to my other spreads, there's a lot of room for what each individual card might mean. The positions are not fixed, like this means what are you hopeful for? This means what will happen next. It's more like the rest of my spreads. What is the nature of this? How will we know what we know? What are the messages to be had here? Is there an action to be taken? And those kind of more open-ended determinations of the card positions mean that we can then interpret them kind of more personally and less rigidly. So I'm going to get us right into showing how the spread is done. And then after that, I plan to have us actually do one of the spreads. Um, over the years, this spread has come in very handy when people have come to me to let me know that they're grieving over the death of someone that they loved and love. Um, I've had multiple times where clients come in and they'll say, and it's, it'll be something like this. It'll be like, well, I just kind of wanted to see what was going on in general. Stuff's just been kind of rough lately, and my mom died last year, and I don't know, it's just been kind of a rough time. And so I might say, well, would you like us to do a spread where we look in on just how things are going to go in your life over the course of the next several months to a year? And then would you like us to do a spread to see if your mom has any messages for you? And then people get the chance to opt in for this, because not everybody always wants to hear from their deceased relatives. Sometimes people are really sensitive about it, or they feel like they don't want your interpretation of it, and that's fine. But you'll notice that if someone comes to you for a reading and they mention especially a recent loss that they've had, or a loss that they've had that brings that little sadness or that wistful note into their voice, it might be helpful to be able to say to them, well, would you like us to see if there are any messages waiting in your message box from this person in your life? And that's what we then do. It's kind of like sitting down and reading a letter from the deceased person to the individual who is in front of you. So we're not doing trance mediumship and trying to manage flipping the cards at the same time and all that. We're reading a love letter aloud to somebody who doesn't necessarily know how to read it. And we, as the readers, have the capacity to be in that kind of intermediary state where we're not so attached to the deceased that we would crumple under the information that's shared. Yes, and Christina asks, is there an amount of time we should wait before asking for messages after someone dies? No, there isn't. You don't have to wait. I think you can do a reading just as quickly as you want after someone passes. However, their spirit isn't always fully transitioned over. So one of the better things maybe to do would be to have some kind of a simple yes/no divination, like a coin flip, to say, is it time yet for me to do this divination? And then heads are yes and tails are no, or whatever, and do your yes/no divination. Or you can work with a pendulum to do a yes/no divination. Usually for me, clockwise circles are yes, counterclockwise or back and forth is no. But everybody's is different. So good. I'm glad that can help. So when we sit down and do this, we think of somebody that we might want to communicate with first. Maybe it's my deceased grandmother. And, ideally, you use this reading when it's a time where you already feel like there's a presence or a message for yourself, or when someone comes to you and talks to you about it. Normally I don't kind of go hunting for the dead. I let them rest. But when they come to me, then I know that they want my help, and I'll help pass on the message. So don't be surprised if you kind of go looking for somebody and you don't find something there, if there hasn't already been a sense of them being close, or if after the passing of a relative, you never thought about them, they really went on, they're hardly ever in the mists, you might not get much of an answer, but you still can try and see, because sometimes it's almost like there's an echo of what they carried in life that's still available to us after their death. And we can sort of try and glean from that. So some of your readings using the spread might be like eerily spot on, where it's like, wow, that is so accurate and specific. And then others, it might be like, well, that is kind of like something they would have said. I don't know if it really feels super accurate to my current situation, but I can sense that, you know, this is in the field. And either way, it gives you comfort and it gives you a sense of the ability to say the things you need to say and to hear the things that the deceased person might have wanted you to hear. So this card reading is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 card spread, and it's in the shape of a tree. I chose this because it's kind of like it sort of reminded me of a family tree. So there's one card at the top of the spread, followed underneath it by 2 cards, then followed underneath that by 3 cards, and then underneath that by 1 card. So 1, 2, 3, and 1. So I'm going to just lay out so you can see it, a sort of a not specific. We're not actually asking for anyone to be here, but just so you can see the shape of the spread. Okay, so let's see if you can see my little table here. And all my incense and everything is over here, but the top card is here, then there's 2, then there's 3, and then there's 1. And it kind of is like a tree shape. So when we do the spread, that top card, the pinnacle, is the person that we're looking for. Here is the individual. The next 2 cards are the ways in which they related to the querent. So if you're asking for yourself, it would be the ways I was related to this person. If you're asking for someone else, it would be the ways that this person was related to the deceased. And in those 2 cards, you're basically looking for qualities and characteristics. Obviously, the face cards, like the major arcana that are figures, or the court cards, page through king, those will often connote something about the person's relationship to you, or to the querent. And then the other card sometimes describes the qualities or characteristics of that individual. So in this fake spread that I've done, we've got at the top the Temperance card, and then it's followed by the Knight of Pentacles with the Devil reversed. And so let's say somebody came to me and they said, well, like this is one that I had recently. My ex-partner died. We had been broken up for a long time. We hadn't talked in a long time. I hadn't seen him in years, but I just heard that he's died, and it just was so shocking because he was still young. And I guess I just feel like unsettled and insecure about it. So that was a recent question that I got. So we did the spread and we looked. So let's pretend that that's the question that's been asked here. So I see the Temperance card, and then I see, as the deceased. And it's like, okay, I would interpret the Temperance card from the deceased as, excuse me, little fall allergies I've been having. I would interpret, thank you, the Temperance card as meaning this person is at peace, but they have a foot in both worlds. They're not fully crossed over. And then below that, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is upright, and the Devil reversed. And what I would say from that interpretation, this is just very basic, is, oh, well, you know what? It looks like the Knight of Pentacles, I would describe. It looks like your relationship was stable or solid, and that your partner was reliable and dependable, but that there really just wasn't a lot of passion or heat in the relationship. There wasn't a big spark, and if the person says, oh yeah, that's true, we didn't really have a great physical or passionate connection, but we cared about each other. Okay. So that's when you kind of get the sense that might be, you're on the right track. Through those top 3 cards, that's where you're ascertaining who you're talking to. Now, let's say somebody came to me and they said, oh, my ex just died and I just kind of can't believe it. It's so, sudden, and he was so young. And I guess I wanted to know, like, were we okay at the end? Like, is he okay? I don't even, and often people don't even know what they're asking. They're like, I don't even know. I just want to know, is everything okay? And so let's say instead of that temperance card showing up, that it had been the Empress. I might look at that and I might say, I know you asked about your ex, but has there been anything going on? Have you also been thinking about your mother? Is your mother here in this world? Because it's possible that sometimes somebody is thinking about death or thinking about the deceased, that they know, the most recent deceased, that the person that they know, but the actual message that's waiting for them is coming from someone totally different on the other side, who's like, oh, now's my big chance. They're listening for messages from the dead. I am going to bring this message right now. And so you have to kind of be willing to get to this point with somebody and to say, it's totally possible that we're not hearing from your ex, and we can maybe look at that in a minute, but we might be hearing from your mom. And then, see if they're open to this change in the plan, because that change in the plan is, obviously what brought them to your table. For many years and to this day, I've asked people when they sit down with me, I won't really usually say, well, what do you want your reading to be about, or anything like that. I'll just say, what brought you to my table today? Because through what they answer me, I will understand a lot more than just the question that they're carrying in the front of their minds. I'll understand more about their whole demeanor in approaching. So I'll say, well, what would you like? Or I might say, well, what would you like us to look at today? And then I allow space. So let's say we've, asked that question, we've allowed space. Now we've got the cards here. They're for the X. We've seen, okay, looks like we're talking to the right person. It was a balanced relationship. It was a caring relationship. It was just not a very exciting relationship. And it looks like it ended on, calm and kind terms, but that it wasn't, super spicy. And the person say, okay, yes, that's the case. Okay, then we know we're talking to who we're talking to. So now I'm going to look at those next 3 cards, the third row down. And each of these cards is a message. And some of these cards are going to be a message in relationship to each other. And in some cases, it's just that each card is a separate message. So one way you can ascertain this is by reading that 3 card segment in 2 ways. One is to read it as a issue, action, outcome, or past, present, future, so that you're really getting, like, all 3 of these cards are giving you a full picture of an arc, in a thematic arc or an arc of time. Or I should say, and then afterwards, you can also just read each card as a standalone message. So in this case, we've got the King of Cups reversed, the Page of Pentacles reversed, and the Two of Pentacles. So now, as I look at that as the issue, action, outcome, or past, present, future, I might say, well, when your relationship ended, it really seems like, you both gave it the best try that you could. Um, and that you both ended up going on and being happy with other people. And your person, um, and your person wants you to know that they want you to be happy. And Alexa said it was the King of Cups reversed, the Page of Pentacles reversed, and then the Two of Pentacles upright were the three cards in the fake reading. I always make sure I say it's a fake reading because I don't want to make it come true accidentally. Um, so, okay, this, issue, action, outcome, King of Cups reversed. He wasn't the one for you, and you weren't the one for him. Page of Pentacles reversed. No matter how hard you both tried, because you did feel safe and caring together, it just wasn't the thing. But outcome, Two of Pentacles upright, you both, once you split, ended up kind of going on your own paths and finding the people you were meant to be with. So everything looks like it turned out okay. Or, other possible interpretations, but I'm just basing this on the one I did recently. So then after I've seen that arc, King of Cups reversed, wasn't the one, Page of Pentacles reversed, um, gave it the old college try, and just, it wasn't meant to be, but it doesn't mean anything was wrong, and they learned a lot. And then the Two of Pentacles, and ultimately when they parted ways, it was peaceable and equitable, and everyone turned out okay, even if it was a little bit sad or difficult. Then I can go back and say, and King of Cups reversed says, um, where this person is at now, there's maybe a frustration because they were an artist and they aren't able to do their art anymore. And they loved doing their art in life. And Page of Pentacles reversed, not really too worried about the fact that they're not making any money anymore or have like a big career, but they loved what they did and they enjoyed that. So these two things are showing us, these two reversals are showing us that these are the things that are being yearned for from the other side. I miss being alive because I miss doing art, and I miss being alive because I miss being needed or useful. I miss being alive because I miss having that sense of place in this world, in this human world. But Two of Pentacles, and that Two of Pentacles rhymes with that Temperance card up at the top of not fully left this realm yet, still kind of keeping a foot here, still kind of attached to this realm. And then finally, that last card, which is the action, normally the action card, is there something you should do? It's actually a reversed card, Page of Wands. And I would say it means there's nothing that you should do, because the Page of Wands is the activator. Hi, Jennifer, welcome. The Page of Wands is the activator card, the initiator, the get things moving and going, getting outside, being active, but it's reversed. So there's really not much action that can be taken by the querent to ease the passage of this person. But I have seen it where I was like given very specific instructions. Like there was one such reading where those three message cards were there was like a devil card, a Four of Wands, and then a Ten of Pentacles. And I was able to say to my client, it looks like due to this person having had bad experiences with banks or investments or money things, money related things in the past, I have a feeling that your father or grandfather hid money in the house somewhere. that 4 of Wands and 10 of Pentacles tell me money is hidden inside of the house. And so I was able to send my client to go, and I said, go look through everything, pick up the grates, open the closets, go in, look in the crawl space, open the cupboards. And they did find reserves of money stashed all over the house in little secret places. So sometimes you get super specific and then the card for, the go do it card was like an Ace of Wands, or it was like a go get to it, like activate right away. So when we look at that action card, that last card, it's really, does the deceased want the querent to go do something? And I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen the 9 of Pentacles in that spot, which says to me, go bring flowers to the grave. I've seen, Page of Cups in that spot, which says, if you felt like making some artwork or writing them a letter and burning it, or doing something that was like a gift for them, it would help strengthen your connection. So the card that shows up in your action area is going to really depend on the relationship between the deceased and the querent, and it's going to also depend upon if there's any actionable task. And sometimes there isn't. Like in this case, I don't see that the Page of Wands really wants the querent to go do anything. And it makes sense if they were out of touch. So this is just all kind of for an example. But now I think I'd like to ask if anyone would like us to do an actual one of these. And I'd love to demonstrate it and workshop through it with the group. Is there anybody here? And I understand that this is a vulnerable topic, so no pressure. But is there anybody here who has been sensing a deceased person around? Valeria, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go from there. So Valeria, who is the deceased that's been around, if you don't mind me asking?
I got a 10 of Pentacles worth of them. They're just like, there's a lot of them coming right now. So I'll just tell you a couple, and whoever feels right. There is, my grandmother passed in January. So she's a good candidate always. My great-grandmother is always around. There is a male ancestor that's coming through my mother's line who wants to work with me. I don't know who he is, some sort of grandfather. So whoever is more, and then there's somebody that I suspect who is actually very, who caused me a lot of trauma that I don't think we should be touching. So whoever is most conducive to the work tonight, I'm willing to try whoever.
Excellent. That's a great premise to start from. That gives us a lot of space to see who shows up. And you've brought up a really good point, Valeria, which is when I do my readings, I always say, might say, we're here today to find out about so-and-so, and we're seeking information and guidance about such and such issue. And I say, we call upon all of the benevolent ancestors, guardians, and guides who walk through this life with the querent. And I always specify that we're only calling the benevolent ones. So that's what we're going to do. And that will hopefully give us, safety and protection.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting us know that you've had a troublesome ancestor. I'm sure there are many of us who can relate to having energies in our bloodlines that we're now, as magical practitioners, trying to clear.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can bring a lot of trauma. And I've seen it happen more than once, where somebody actually ended up like living out patterns of abuse that had been in the family for generations and things like that. So you bring up a really good point, which is that we only are seeking the benevolent ones. So I'm going to say my prayer, and then we're going to have a look, and I'm going to invite folks to help workshop these cards. Great Mother, Holy Mother, wise and gentle Mother, abundant and loving Mother, protective and healing Mother, I call to you. I'm here today with Valeria, and our Tea and Tarot group. And together we're seeking information and guidance in the matter of deceased relatives of Valeria's who have been showing up recently. Her recently passed grandmother, great grandmother. There's a male ancestor from her maternal line that seems to be coming around, and we're open to any other benevolent ancestors, guardians, and guides who walk through this life with Valeria. We ask you to be here now and guide this reading. We come to this reading together today with courage and strength, honesty and integrity, love, compassion, and gratitude for the journey of life. And may what we learn here today be of benefit to Valeria, and turning outward, may what we learn here today in some way, great or small, also be of benefit to the entire universe. For Valeria. So our top card is showing a 9 of Cups reversed. For the next 2 down, we have the 7 of Wands upright and the Ace of Cups upright. For the 3 message cards, we have a 9 of Wands reversed, a King of Swords reversed, a Wheel of Fortune upright, and then the actionable card is Ace of Swords. And right away, the sense that I get is that who is coming through is an ancestor who felt somehow thwarted in this lifetime from actualizing freedom, and didn't feel until the end of her life, I think it's a she, until the end of her life, that she was really free to be herself. And so one of the questions that I have for you around your grandmother who recently passed, did she spend her whole life basically taking care of others and then taking care of a family member or her husband or somebody, and then had her own time at the end of her life?
That was more my great grandmother, actually. I think. I think she was a bit more outwardly giving and very warm. My grandmother she loved me, but she was different with other people. So I don't know if that makes a difference. She was a bit more kind of Queen of Swords.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. I think, it's totally possible that this is your great grandmother, because I do sense, that there's this 9 of Cups reversed. So that card often is about a sense of wistfulness or a wish that did not go answered or was not fulfilled. And then there's the 7 of Wands, which tends to be a card kind of about defiance and boundaries and having to stand your ground. And then there's the Ace of Cups, which is like an opening and a softening. So it makes me kind of wonder with your great grandmother. So a discernment for us to figure out is, with your great grandmother, did she feel in life like she had to kind of fight to get what she got? Or could it be that this is your grandmother and that she's showing that, maybe she was a little harsh with others because she was frustrated in her life, but that you opened her heart and she was connected to you?
I think that the both are very possible. They're both, what I felt immediately was war and wartime. And my great grandmother survived the Second World War, or both World Wars, honestly. And my grandmother was also there in that energy. So there's a lot of survival and fighting that surrounded them both from a young age. So it's still a little bit unclear to me. But yeah, maybe if we look a little bit deeper, I might be able to discern more.
We'll keep going. And this is
Yeah.
totally how this goes, because you don't know somebody's ancestors, but they do. So
Mhm.
we're going to keep asking. So, Nine of Cups reversed in terms of this, a wish that went unfulfilled. Now, as I glance down at the other cards here, the Nine of Wands reversed, the King of Swords reversed, that's showing me some frustration around mind, around academics, around opportunity and possibility. We're
My
either,
grandmother, 100%.
okay, now we're there. Okay, your
Yeah, yeah.
grandmother was a very smart and unfulfilled scholar.
Correct. Yes. She saw me fulfill what she didn't. So that's very, especially academically. So that right away was a good clue for me to because like I said, there's a lot of similarities between their lives, but that was a
Yeah,
good clue for me to know right away. I mean, maybe my great grandmother did too, but as far as I know, she wasn't academically inclined.
she
I
wasn't,
didn't have
but
a
your
lot of,
grandmother was.
she was, yeah. She
Mhm.
wanted
But
more for
she
herself.
she was academically inclined, but because of circumstance, she
Yeah.
wasn't able to fulfill her dream.
Yeah, she literally failed to get into a school that she wanted to get into, and that kind of really derailed her whole life in a different direction.
And okay, this is making a lot of sense when we
Yeah,
go back to the wishes unfulfilled in that
yeah.
first card, that Nine of Cups. So then that follows with that Seven of Wands, which makes a lot of sense if you said she had a tendency with kind of the outside world to be a little abrasive, maybe
Hmm.
a little a little resentful.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think so. A little bit on guard.
Hmm.
But I always keep thinking for some reason that because she was born during the war, and that whole generation, the way they interacted with the world, it was very, and she was a communist, so there's a lot there
Oh,
that's
mhm,
very kind of like, we will fight for motherland, and you know what I mean, that sort of thing. And I keep
mhm,
feeling there's that survivor spirit and that fighting spirit that's very much, and she did keep a lot of people at the distance, especially men,
mhm,
so
mhm.
it's a part of it too.
Well, and it seems understandable, and we'll look at that in a minute with that
Hmm.
reversed King of Swords. But
Hmm.
I do think, yeah, a combination of things, wanting to have been a serious academic, not being
Hmm.
able to
Hmm.
do it, the wartime environment, and the epigenetic trauma that came from her own mother being in the war.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then also her feeling like she kind of needed to like prove herself, defend herself, stand
Yeah.
up for herself. There's that little defensiveness, which is characteristic of that Seven of Wands. But
Hmm.
then it shows, because this is also about her relationship with you. Remember these
Hmm.
cards. So this
Yeah.
Ace of Cups says you come along and her heart breaks open. There's something
Hmm.
here. So is this your mother's mother or father's
Yeah.
mother? Mother's mother.
I'm pretty sure it's my mother's mother. Yeah.
So this is your mother line. And, you know, something about this is interesting to me. And this was the case for my Slavic family. So I don't know if
Hmm.
it's also the case for your Slavic
Yeah.
family. Um, um, your family might have this particular thing like mine did, where like my father never felt like he could tell me he was proud of me,
Yeah.
but my grandfather could. My grandfather
Hmm.
could express that. And like my father just completely doted on his granddaughter. He felt like he could express something about her or to her that somehow with me or with my siblings he couldn't. And so sometimes that warlike atmosphere or that
Yeah.
sense of, you know, fear about what might happen kept parents from being very expressive with their children, but then
Hmm.
they might find that they could be a little more expressive with their grandchildren also
Yeah.
because age softens us. So
Yeah.
would you say that, so you mentioned before that your grandmother was different with you
Yeah.
than she was with, say, your mom or other
Oh
people?
yeah. 100%. Yeah. That's very, very accurate what you just said. All
Okay.
of it.
Okay, so now we've got a little greater sense of what's
Yeah.
going on with these first three cards. And I want to just pause here. I see we've got a couple questions in the chat. How does this work? Well, what we do, Marie-Françoise, so nice to see you, or have you here, is we're workshopping a reading for Valeria, and through this, we're learning how to communicate with our ancestors through this reading. So it's a 7-card reading. The first card represents the deceased person, that's at the top. The next 2 cards below represent the relationship between the deceased person and the person that we're reading for. So that's where we've been. And then the next 3 cards below that are the messages from the deceased to the living, which we haven't gotten into yet, but we're getting there. But before we go on to that part, I'd like to give everybody a chance now. Is there anybody who has an additional message about the reverse 9 of Cups representing Valeria's grandmother? Is there anybody who feels like they'd like to say something about the meaning of the 9 of Cups reversed, or anything that's come up as we were talking that you feel like you'd like to share? And it can be about this card, or it can be about one of the other ones, the 7 of Wands and Ace of Cups, which were upright. And I'll hold these for a second so you can see. Anybody have anything, interpretations of these cards that they might like to toss into the pot?
So I have something to say about the reverse 9 of Cups. One
Right.
of the things that strikes me about that is she had so many opportunities to choose other paths, but she chose to forego all of that on a matter of principles and her beliefs. Her belief system, especially, when she mentioned about the motherland, she was very committed to country, committed to the idea of family, but family through the heritage, the lineage. And so some of the things that she could have had or could have done, some of the dreams and wishes she could have fulfilled, she deliberately chose to forego them. It may well have been that on some levels she would have been a happier person had she, tried to fulfill some of those dreams. But it was a principle thing for her. And I think it was also principled, not only country, but part of her personal family lineage that she was bringing that forward from. And I think that's part of a gift that she gives to you, Valeria. That's
Mm,
what I feel.
thank you.
Yeah, it seems like there's, the potential here in what you're saying, Patricia Morning Dove, is, and Jennifer asked me if there was a shield. The 9 of Cups is holding a cup and a staff. He's not holding a shield in my deck, but maybe in someone else's he is. Here, I'll turn it right side up so you can see a little better. That's a big sleeve that looks like a shield. It's a sort of his costume. So what I was just hearing you say, Morning Dove, is, something to basically the effect of, like, when she didn't get into that school that she really, really wanted, it was her A number 1. It was like nothing else was going to be good enough. And maybe in some way she took that as a sign, or, took it as like, well, then it must be my duty to do this other thing, to make my focus more about my family, or more about the party, or more about fighting the party, or whatever it was that, and I know this is a complex subject for anybody whose family is from a Slavic nation that lived under communism. But it seems a little bit like, yeah, maybe there was something like when that door closed and she felt like that wasn't the path, that she then, instead of kind of trying to make do with other paths, um, tried to just forge ahead with the other values that were prevalent in the post-war period. And certainly that would be common for many women worldwide, regardless of whether they were here in the US or in Europe or in many other places after the World War, when during especially World War II, women took greater prominence in the workforce, especially white suburban women showed up in greater force in the workforce during those times in the US and in Europe. And afterwards, when they were kind of expected just to like go back to the kitchen, they didn't want to. They wanted to stay engaged and active. So there's a lot here, Valeria, that you can kind of try to work through and maybe unpack.
Well, to me, to be honest, when thank you, Morinda, for your message, because I see what you mean, and it is quite accurate. And well, one thing that I had like a epiphany, and that I think is the lesson of what happens when you want this one thing and it doesn't work out exactly the way you want it to work out, and this lesson of, well, I'm just gonna, I'm relating to it in some ways, because it's like allowing that what you perceive as failure or whatever to just, okay, then I'm not going to try anymore. And I'm not this, I'm the opposite of that, but also I understand it's sort of that fear of even trying something because you're afraid to fail, and not actually having what you want, or having what you do want and getting it, and that being not what you thought it would be. There's like a lot there that I think. And it's just a lesson, to be honest, to what I just heard is like, whenever you're afraid, just think what your life would be like if you didn't try hard enough, like your grandmother didn't, which is heartbreaking, but that's sort of what I'm hearing here.
Yeah, and Marie-Françoise offers there's some unresolved hurt feelings here. Yeah, and I think, there may be that unresolved pain that, she felt, and maybe felt like she just had to go on and be brave, and
of course,
keep going. So this is good workshopping. And now let's look at this message, these three messages. So we've got the 9 of Wands reversed, the King of Swords reversed, and the Wheel of Fortune upright. And whenever I see the Wheel of Fortune in an ancestral spread like this, I often think about a couple different themes: rebirth and reincarnation, family cycles, and time. And so we're going to come back to that potential interpretation of this. But first, we need to get through this 9 of Wands reversed and King of Swords reversed. And what it basically is, I call the 9 of Wands reversed, it's like always almost and never quite. It's when you're always almost getting what you want. And in our world, a lot of us do this thing where we're so afraid of failing if we go after our true desire, that instead we go after a comparably tame desire that isn't what we actually want. And then we're in that always almost category, never quite.
Why did you have to do that?
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm being facetious. No, I love that you said that. I'm very grateful, because it's like, bing, like sore spot. But I'm here because I needed to hear this, and I'm very open to it. So thank you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for being open. And it really means the world to us all that you're willing to be vulnerable so that we can have this learning together. Yeah. So this 9 of Wands, always, almost, never quite. But then with that King of Swords reversed, that also shows me that there was active male suppression in her life. Yeah. And that some of her always almost goes way further back than the school thing, to a life of male suppression and men basically intervening or taking her power away or dominating her, and potentially violently so physically. The King of Swords is, when the King of Swords is upright, he's the warrior, but he's the noble warrior. He's like the strategic warrior. But when the King of Swords is reversed, he becomes more actively harmful, in my view. So the King of Swords reversed says there was an active male obstacle in her life. And that there was this sense of always almost, but that this is important for you because you are breaking the cycle. Because these two cards are 9 of Wands reversed, King of Swords reversed, but then the upright card is that Wheel of Fortune. And I would say that that's the message to you. You've already said to us, you broke the cycle and you've gone on and you've gotten the education and you completed it. But I do have to ask, I'm super scared to ask this question, actually. I'm
Go ahead.
nervous to ask it, but um, did you do this academic path because that is your heart's desire? Or
Well,
what's going on with this that's got
yeah.
you trapped in always almost?
Well, the beginning of the at first it wasn't. I thought it's what I wanted, and it was partly what I wanted, but it wasn't quite. I didn't find out who I was or what I wanted until about 10 years ago. So, and since then I've kind of been steering away from that path. But it's funny because the things that you mentioned, the two cards, the true reversed cards. When you said that, I just saw my life mirroring her experience in a different way, but very similar. Very similar. Those cards could have been just about me as they were about her. And I think that there's an interesting thing for me here. It's like almost like, what are you learning from me? And when you said with the Wheel of Fortune, I think, oh, this is my chance to change, to be different, because even I finally found my soul work and what I'm doing, and I'm entering that now. But even now, I'm struggling a little bit with almost always, because it was
Mhm.
never quite. It took me a long time to really be honest with myself and admit that what I actually wanted to do and this work that I want to do is very difficult, and it's brave, and it's scary, but it's something that I'm good at, and I want to bring it into the world. So that almost always was coming from not living up to what I truly wanted. That's why it was almost always, because I never went after 100% what I wanted without any reservations.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is
Yeah.
really good self-revelation.
Yeah.
And we're just witnessing as you're making this connection. And I
Yeah.
completely agree and support
Yeah.
you. And for those who don't know, Valeria helps people who have been sexually traumatized.
Yeah.
And, I
The king
think,
reversed, also very appropriate here.
yeah, that King of Swords reversed,
Yeah.
very appropriate. And
Yeah.
and I know that, to work with the sexually traumatized, there's a certain kind of clinical approach, but then there's what really needs to happen. And those two
Mm-hmm.
things don't always match. We can't always just mentalize that healing.
Yeah.
Sometimes that healing is going to require touch, is going to require meditation, is going to require spiritual treatments, is going to require all kinds of other healing support. And so
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like for you, the academic sphere was the sort of container you poured yourself into to stay safe on
At
this
first.
path.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
for sure.
now you've gained the strength to be able to say, maybe I can bring it out of the purely mental and I can
Mm-hmm.
bring it into a more enfolding spiritual
Mm-hmm.
paradigm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. Well, your grandmother is all for this. She is
Mm-hmm.
well, she is here supporting this, and I do see that that Wheel of Fortune says it stops with you. This
Mm-hmm.
is not a cycle that will continue. And I also feel like your grandmother's journey, this is just a sort of
Yeah.
related side note. So as the whole, there's the nine of, those three cards, the nine and the king reversed, and then the wheel upright is as a whole, you are going to change this dynamic that's been in your family, and it stops with you. But as individual messages, I also see that the Wheel of Fortune brings a message that says, you mentioned that your grandmother died in January.
Mm-hmm.
um, feels to me very important that this coming January, you do something to commemorate the year of her
Mm.
passing.
Yeah.
And that it be some kind of a personal ceremony that says, like, I will take it on myself to live my dreams on behalf of all my ancestors. And may
Mm-hmm.
you all heal as you watch me go into the world and live my dreams. And may this healing be behind me and before me, right? Both
Mm-hmm.
directions.
Right.
Because the final action card is the Ace of Swords, which is both January the number
Mm.
one, is new beginnings, is the season of winter, is kind of getting sharply to the point of what you're really meant to be doing and honing in with that laser-like focus on what you really want. So I see that there's this acknowledgement ceremony of some sort that you could do come January
Yeah.
that completes a cycle for her, and that it's possible that her spirit is traveling this world until at least that time.
Yeah.
And that, you know, maybe when you do a ceremony of that nature, to say, you know what, ladies, I've got this, that their spirits can rest, you know, because they're here, she's here, kind of goading you, kind of poking at you with that Ace of Swords, going, come on, you know. So I'm curious if anybody else has any messages that they'd like to share from the Nine of Wands reversed, the King of Swords reversed, or the Wheel upright that maybe I didn't see. Anything that, yeah, go ahead, Morning Dove, and then any others, give me a little wave.
I just want to say that Wheel of Fortune, in that, this is like the fulfillment of your grandmother's dream through you. And it's also a message to you of how very proud of you that she is. This ceremony is also a way to honor her, to help her feel more settled in the mission she came to do. It's slightly different than what she thought it was when she was here. And yet it is so eternal. For me, that beautiful, I love the aces, the whole new beginnings. The other thing about that sword, though, swords are also a way of healing through power. And so she's acknowledging that this ceremony is also going to be something powerfully healing for you. And this powerful healing tool that you have and use, you use it for the benefit of all beings everywhere. You help so many women in ways that your grandmother didn't even have any idea could be done. She is so very proud of you. So thank you for undertaking the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. That's so touching and so profound to me, because, and it's sort of like, you know, when she was living, it's hard to carry the weight of your family's expectations, and there can be resentment and a lot of things around it. But now that she's gone, it's like I'm owning it in my own way. It's like a circle with that wheel, right? Up and down and then back up again. And with a sword too, when I meditate, I always see a sword in my hand, always. And it's like, and I never knew why. And I think it's sort of like it connects to that warrior, you know, kind of truth and justice spirit of the sword. It's like wielding it on behalf of myself and my ancestors and all the other women and people who are survivors, you know. So there's a lot here that I can unpack. Thank you so much, Morning Dove, for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And any others? Go ahead, Tara.
First, I have to say that was amazing.
Oh, you've muted, my love. We want to hear you. But
okay, did you hear anything? I was saying it's just am I muted again?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. That it was amazing. I mean, both of you and also Morning Dove's comments, the power and the insights that it brings out. It's just I'm awed. But something that I thought of with Valeria, with your sword meditation and what Morning Dove was saying about the wheel. What is it? The wheel.
The Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune. Is that given your work, that there are probably so many other women where you're helping them cut that, you know, in that cycle with them and begin their own new wheel of time, of fortune, of change. It's fabulous.
It's a little, makes me tear up. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
Good tears. Okay, good.
I think we all heal when we have these moments, actually. I really do. When I'm sitting with a client, and I think probably everybody here, like when Valeria indicated, okay, yes, I know it's my grandmother, and yes, I'm feeling the message. Who here felt it in your body? Like, okay, we're in, I feel it in my body when it's truth. It's
Mhm.
just my animal body acknowledges it. See you later, Marie-Françoise. Thank you. My body really feels it. And so I think when we hear truth, we feel it and it changes our own inner story. And I completely agree, Tara. Thank you for that wonderful interpretation, that through that wheel, she's cycling through not only her own story, but lots of people's stories, women, children, whoever is needing her help. She's moving them through that story and kind of with her sword cutting this karma. And this karma of sexual abuse and dominance culture is a very old, sticky, awful karma that has us all in its shackles. So I think we're all freed by knowing this, and I think it's very powerful. And so Valeria, this, I agree. I think
Yeah.
you're helping liberate, and I love that when you described the meditation and holding the sword in your hand, I immediately saw you in like full like Valkyrie winged headdress with like standing with your sword out and your hand back here and like thousands of people behind you and you like facing off to that specter of abuse, and what a power. If we knew a cartoonist, we would have them draw this, because what a powerful image. And for you to carry forward, like, yes, my sword is in my hand, and yes, I am going to take down this paradigm, and to believe it, to really believe it.
Well,
Any, oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. And I just
Oh,
want to
please.
say thank you, Tara, so much. One thing that you said that again illuminated something for me very powerfully when you said I haven't thought about it that way before. And when you said that, I just thought, how dare I not do this the way I'm meant to do this when so many people can benefit from it? It's sort of like it made my own fears and doubts very insignificant. And I don't mean to minimize them because, they're there for a reason, but I just put everything into perspective for me. I think very clearly it's like there are people who are hungering for this, who are bound, who are in this bondage of sexual trauma, and if I can come and help them, then I have no right to be afraid. I can't be afraid.
Great way to look at this. This
Yeah.
is a great way to look at this.
Thank
Who
you
am
for.
I
I'm
to
sorry
be
to
afraid?
interrupt. Yeah.
Not at all. I
Yeah.
think this is amazing. This is your reading. You can't possibly interrupt your own reading. So any other interpretations, just down to this last card. So this Ace of Swords upright is Valeria's action card.
Mhm.
It's the go make something happen, and it definitely indicates a strength in the turn of the year. I saw it as also representing this ceremonial acknowledgement of the 1 year passing of your grandmother, and where it's you said something really important that I wanted to touch on, Valeria. We carry our family traumas collectively, but we experience them individually.
Mhm.
And so when you were saying that thing about like, you do feel like now you didn't realize what it would feel like to carry this until she passed, but
Yeah.
now you understand it better. That sense of like, it's almost like you've been looking at someone wearing this crown on their head, but you never got to try it on. You didn't know how heavy it would be. You didn't know if it would pinch your head. You didn't know if it would
Mhm.
be comfortable or not. But now all of a sudden it's being placed on your head, and you're going to now feel the weight of it, the shape of it, the gems in it. You'll feel it. And I think, there's a part of this that you could not have known before she died. There's
Mm.
something in us, and for anyone here, and I don't know some of you have, anyone here who's lost a parent, it's not, exactly universal, but I think many of us can relate to that sense that when a parent or important figure in our family dies, that all of a sudden it's like we are handed something that we didn't know we were going to get,
Mm.
like handed the role of matriarch who now makes sure that everyone gets together for holidays, or handed, I'm the one who still has the recipe for the thing everyone liked to eat, or I'm the one who has the photo albums. We don't always know what it is that we will carry, but then it's visited upon us, and there we are with it. And we have to learn how to wield that role as the family historian or the matriarch or the cook or the counselor or the comforter, or like my own mother, the one who takes in her grandchild and raises her grandchild when my sister was in school, or,
Mhm.
there's these kind of legacies. So I think that it's also possible that there will be other roles that
Mhm.
come in this coming year for you within your family that were not visible to you before. Like, probably for your whole life, you just thought, well, she just does that. You didn't even think about it. She just did it. But now those things you're going to start to see, like, oh, if I want to eat if I want the
Mhm.
Christmas Eve borscht, I have to make it, or whatever.
Mhm.
In my
Mhm.
family, it's something different. But
Mhm.
if I want that thing, nobody's here to cook it for me. I will do it. So we kind of take that on. So I would say just be on the lookout for those things,
Mhm.
those, unknown roles that may yet emerge in terms of who you are to your family line, you know, backwards and forwards.
Mhm. Thank you.
And any other interpretations of this Ace of Swords card that we have here? And this one does have the shield, Jennifer. He's
Oh,
carrying a big shield.
that's cool.
So I love that there's the lion on the shield. You
Mhm.
are the lioness. You are so powerful. It's like you are the queen of the jungle that you have decided to inhabit. So
Oh,
again, it's another symbol of embrace your power.
thank you. It's one of
Mhm.
my totem animals, so
Ah,
it makes sense.
That's
There's like,
awesome.
I love all the symbolism that comes through because also the deck chooses the reading. So it's like the imagery can be very powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. And any others before we close this reading? All right. Well, Valeria, I hope this has been helpful for you, and
Oh, yeah,
it
incredible. And thank you.
it
And thank
does.
you for everybody who chimed in and offered. It's such a rich, wonderful, supportive environment. I really appreciate you guys holding space and offering from the heart what you perceived. It was incredible, as you saw. It was very activating in the best possible way. So,
Oh, good. Well, this is exactly it. This is the way that this reading, that we've just experienced, truly an ideal version of this spread in a few ways. One is that we were able to figure out who it was that was communicating from the cues provided. Two, we were able to help Valeria make connections with thematic arcs that have been in her life that might have been visible and might not have been specifically visible right now. Three, we were able to help her see where her own situation, and really she's the one who came up with this, where her
mhm.
own situation might parallel her grandmother's. And I always think it's great in a reading when you can kind of subtly point to certain things with a querent, and they can then have the aha moment for themselves. It's so healing. Yes. And then four, we were able to give her some encouragement for her path forward from this message, and a sense of what to do to properly honor her grandmother and to properly honor herself and to break this cycle in her life. And this is the purpose of the ancestral healing spread. So I think we've accomplished our goal today. I'd love to recommend that everybody try one of these for yourself if you have a mind to, over the course of this coming week, as the ancestors are very near at this time of year. And if you have somebody that you've been thinking about and contemplating and wanting to communicate with, you can do all kinds of things leading up to this reading. Like, I'm thinking about doing this reading with my dad this week. And I haven't done a reading like this since he passed. So I made him coffee the other day, and I got him his favorite apple fritters, and I put one on the altar and I ate the other one, and I got his picture and I put it there, and I'm preparing a little bit by little bit every day. And then later this week, I'll do this reading and sit with my dad. I recommend that you do something similar yourself. If you have somebody that you'd like to hear from or communicate with, that you make a little effort ahead of time to give them some offerings and attention. Let them know that you're going to be inviting them to this appointment, and let their spirit have time, because in my experience, in the realm of the dead, time moves very differently. They don't necessarily show up on schedule. But if you kind of give them a little bit of invitation, then they're more likely to show up. And I think you should give it a try. And then if you feel like it, you can post it in the Tea and Tarot email newsletter, or you can go post it in the Tea and Tarot section of the Goddess Temple app. And I saw up above there was a question from Tara asking if it's got a desktop version, and yes, it does. The link to the desktop version, let me get it, is right here. So if you'd like to, let me just grab it and let it load. There we go. So I'm going to put it into the chat window. If you'd like, you can log in through this link, and that'll sign you up into the Goddess Temple app. And then after Halloween, when I've made the announcement about it, anytime you want to log into this site, you can just go to www.goddesstempleapp.com, and that'll take you to the login screen. And you can go in and see. And what we've got going on in there is so much fun right now, and it's going to just get even more fun. Feel free, post your spreads if you want to in the Tea and Tarot group or to the email list. And we will be back this time next month. It will be, for the spread, the first two cards represent what? So the first card at the top, one more quick review. The first card at the top represents the deceased person that we are trying to call upon. Then the two cards below that represent their relationship to the querent and how we will know that we're talking to the right person. And then the three cards below that are the messages from the deceased. And then the final card at the bottom is action. What needs to be done, if anything. So 7-card spread. But I do hope you'll share about it, and I look forward to this time next month. So just to give you a little heads up, our session for November, it looks like it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be on the 22nd. So that's actually the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And normally it's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So, let's not get confused. We're going to be together the Sunday before Thanksgiving on the 22nd of November, and I'll send you the link. And I'm not sure yet what our topic will be. It's not going to be a topic about cooking a turkey, though, I promise. All right. And what deck did I use? So this deck that I love is the Tarot of the Cat People. And this is my deck that I use at home. At my store, I use a Rider-Waite deck. And then my other favorite deck that I use is called the Pearls of Wisdom by Roxy Sim. Those are my three never fail decks. The Tarot of the Cat People, the Rider-Waite, and the Pearls of Wisdom. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Valeria, for being our subject. And thank you to everybody who shared interpretations. And I so look forward to our time together next month. And I'll upload this video and the interview with the authors of the Pistis Sophia Tarot so that you can see our delightful interview and listen to their wonderful explanations of why they chose the cards they did.
Thank you so much.
Ciao, ciao, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.